All right. Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. Welcome to today's webinar with the Chesapeake Stormwater Network. Today, we are doing part two of our two-part series on growing your watershed stewardship program. So I guess I should also say happy autumn equinox to everybody as well. For those of you who are new, I'll just start with our couple of housekeeping reminders. Welcome back if you have joined our webinar before, and sorry to recover some of the same content here. We have a quick poll at the beginning just to sort of get a sense of our audience. We will take questions and comments throughout the webinar today. You can feel free to use the chat feature if you'd like, or we also have our Q&A feature in your toolbar. You could drop those questions in there anytime throughout the presentations today. I'll be keeping an eye on those, and then we'll have some time for some discussion at the end today where we will get to as many of those as we can. You probably heard the little alert when I turned it on, but we are recording today's session. I know that middle of the day can be tough for some folks, so we are going to have this uploaded to our website in full for anyone who missed it or who maybe has to jump off early or anything like that. We also encourage you to share it around later if you see or hear anything that is interesting that you think would benefit your colleagues. So usually it takes me about a day to get those up, but I will have those by lunchtime tomorrow on our website. And then finally, I have a very short evaluation at the end today. I'll put that in the chat once our presentations are over. So before you head out, if you could take a minute, it promises that it takes less than a minute to fill out the survey. It's only 4 quick questions. It lets us know how we're doing. If you have other suggestions for content for our webcast series or just ways that we can improve what we're providing you all, we appreciate that. And then again, for those of you who are maybe new to the Chesapeake Stormwater Network, we are a 2-person nonprofit organization. You can join our network if you want to get our newsletter. It comes out just once a month, has information on webcasts like this one, as well as technical resources, information on fun things like our Best Urban BMP in the Bay Awards or BUBBAs contests that I'll talk about it again in a few minutes, as well as if you're interested in training or workshops on stormwater. It's totally free to join. There are no commitments or anything like that. It just basically means you get our newsletter. So feel free to check that out if you are interested. So basically what we're going to do today, I've got the quick poll at the beginning, and then I'll just say a couple of words to sort of set the stage, put this presentation in the context of both our webinar last week, that was our part 1 series, as well as just sort of stewardship programs in the context of stormwater management a little bit more broadly. And then I'm going to be turning it over to our speakers today to talk a little bit about community engagement, as well as sort of the building of a stewardship program in terms of a funding proposal, and then sort of keeping that momentum going over time. So I'll go ahead and start the poll. Actually, it looks like I'm having a little difficulty with the poll, but it's a small group with us today. So why don't we do this? This is our question, which is just to tell us a little bit about yourself and who you're representing today. For folks who are willing, why don't you just go ahead and let us know in the chat? Are you with a local government or a state government, even at the federal level? Do you work with a private sector group? Maybe you do community engagement and outreach as a consultant, or you're in the nonprofit sector or academia. If none of those really fit, please let us know as well. But we do like to get to know who all we're talking to. So please feel free to drop that in the chat if you're comfortable. And we look forward to hearing from you. Right. So while those come in, I'll just kind of keep things moving along. Thanks for all of you chiming in. It looks like there's a decent mix of folks already jumping into the chat. So what I'll do is to just sort of set the stage a little bit today. I'm going to talk about sort of watershed stewardship programs in context. We had, as I mentioned, our part 1 webinar last week with the Arundel County Watershed Stewards Academy, as well as the Arundel County sort of MS4 program there. And, it was a different presentation, of course, than what you're going to hear today, because that one really focused on sort of the partnership and the collaboration between the county government and the Watershed Stewards Academy, which is a nonprofit organization that does a lot of work within the community and sort of how they're helping the county meet their permit obligations by, really assisting in outreach by working directly with community members. We also talked a lot about sort of how to construct a campaign and target your campaigns based on, what you know about your communities and your audiences, what they want, what they're, sort of willing to do, and what they can maybe change. And so, they also have this interesting new tool now through the Chesapeake Bay Program partnership that can help communities to kind of take a look at this massive survey effort, several thousand participants from each state in the watersheds. So it's a really statistically significant sample to kind of learn about what best practices residents are already performing. And it's anything from, fertilizer habits to pet waste pickup to, installing rain barrels or rain gardens on their property. Paired with information and data on their willingness to adopt those behaviors if they are not already doing so. So it's a really interesting tool. There's a ton of case study information in there, as well as these data sets that you can kind of dig into if you're interested in learning more about your state or your county, maybe in some cases, to help you kind of target certain behaviors or populations for a stewardship or an outreach campaign. So if you're interested in that, check it out. And so today we're going to shift gears a little bit, and we're going to hear from another program. Actually, my home watershed, my local watershed. I'm a resident of the Gunpowder Valley watershed, and so I am, excited to have these folks here today. We're going to talk a little bit about, community-led stewardship. So instead of kind of looking at it from, the angle of the local government working directly with a nonprofit, we're going to be talking about sort of a nonprofit working directly with the community members to sort of create this stewardship campaign. And so we're going to talk a little bit about community-based social marketing approaches that the Gunpowder Valley Conservancy, was using to make this program really successful and result in on-the-ground changes. And then, for folks that maybe work for, a nonprofit or another group that sort of is looking for funding opportunities, we're going to talk a little bit about sort of, developing effective proposals around stewardship and stewardship campaigns, and then sort of sustaining that momentum over, the long haul, so that you can really see the benefits of that work. So I just wanted to circle back because, our presenters today are, winners of our, Best Urban BMP in the Bay Awards contest for Best Education and Outreach Campaign. And so for those of you who maybe aren't familiar with the BUBBAs, it's a contest that we've been doing at CSN for about 5 years now. I guess more years, 5 iterations at this point. And the goal is to really recognize and celebrate people that are doing innovative things in the field of stormwater management. And it's more than just a sort of a design competition, right? We're looking at how do the actual programs get run, right? And so we're thinking about how are the programs being funded, and how are they tracking the success and their metrics in their data? Are they doing really interesting things in communications and education and outreach? So that's why we have our different categories. And then we use these webinars and other platforms to try to share those lessons with you all. So again, this particular project that you're going to be hearing about today was our first place winner for our education and outreach campaign. And I have to say it just missed our grand prize for best overall BMP as well. It was certainly in the running there. I believe it finished in the top 3 in our grand prize voting as well. So a really successful program that I'm really excited to give you guys the opportunity to hear about today. So with that, I want to go ahead and introduce our speakers. First today, we have Pernell Glenn. In 2016, Pernell received the Gunpowder Valley Conservancy's Community Leader of the Year Award for significant achievements, including but not limited to coordinating and leading numerous community workshops, such as tree plantings, rain barrels, and more, and contributing hundreds of hours of volunteer service, leading the effort to Baywise certify the Miramar Landing Community, the first of its kind in Baltimore County. He was also a member of the Gunpowder Valley Conservancy's Clear Creeks Steering Committee. Pernell is also the president of Miramar Landing's HOA, represents his community at the Essex Middle River Civics Council, volunteers for Young Life, and is a big brother to kids in need. He's been an owner of a small computer company since 1987. And he grew up fishing on the bay, which contributed to his love of the outdoors. So welcome, Pernell. Excited to have you today. And we We also have Darcy Herman. So Darcy is the Associate Program Manager at the Gunpowder Valley Conservancy, where her main responsibility is helping to manage the GVC's flagship initiative for stormwater management, the Clear Creeks Project. She also coordinates GVC's social marketing program, assists with outreach efforts, and leads the Adopt a Stream program for volunteers. With a background in technical writing and ecology, Darcy has worked in the public, private, and nonprofit sectors as a writer, editor, proposal developer, outreach coordinator, and naturalist. Among Darcy's passions are entomology, birding, and kayaking. Darcy earned her bachelor's degree in zoology and English from Michigan State and a master's in professional writing from Towson. So welcome, Darcy. And with that, I will go ahead and turn it over to you to take it away.
All right, thank you, David. Let me share my screen. Okay, can everyone see that?
Looks great.
Great, all right. So I'll get started. I'll go right into this now. Let's see. Okay, so David also already gave a really good overview of what I'm going to be talking about today, but just to recap a little bit more, I'll start off by talking about the genesis of the project in the context of another big project that we have going on, and I'll invite Purnell to talk about how he came to know the Gunpowder Valley Conservancy and initiate the project. We'll talk a little bit about how the community was involved in the project, then get into community-based social marketing, which underlies the Miramar Landing project, as well as our overall Clear Creeks project, and just about everything that we do with encouraging stormwater management, best management practices. We'll give you some keys or what we have learned over the years to crafting a successful project proposal. And then Purnell will give his perspective on how local governments or nonprofits can successfully approach HOAs like his with project ideas. And then we'll talk about what I feel like is the holy grail for a lot of these projects, how to keep the momentum going beyond the project period. So just a very brief introduction to the Gunpowder Valley Conservancy. We're a Baltimore County-based land trust and watershed restoration nonprofit. Founded in 1989, which had our 30-year anniversary a couple of years ago. The Gunpowder Watershed is about 450 square miles, covers or reaches into 4 counties in 2 states, actually starts up in York County, Pennsylvania. And you can see it covers a good part of the northeastern part of Baltimore County there. Our mission is education, restoration, land preservation, and then very importantly, community projects like the one I'm going to talk about next. So GVC's flagship stormwater restoration project is the Clear Creeks project, which had its beginnings in 2013, and we've been fortunate enough to have funding to continue it up until the present. We started in a waterfront community and have been working our way up into additional watersheds, upland and inland. The overall Clear Creeks project goal is to use social marketing strategies to motivate homeowners and institutions to take stormwater management restoration actions that were first defined in Baltimore County's small watershed action plans. So from the birth of the project, we were really allied with Baltimore County Department of Environmental Protection and Sustainability, and we used their swaps to come up with our target best management practices, and among those are rain barrels, rain gardens, native bayscape gardens, also tree plantings and stream adoptions, which I'll get into next. So focusing in a little bit, as I mentioned, we started in a waterfront watershed, the Middle River and tidal gunpowder watersheds of the overall gunpowder watershed. And you can see those in the green and orange areas on the screen. And in 2015, expanded up into the Bird River watershed, so moving inland a little bit. And that is when Purnell made the connection with GVC there. So Miramar Landing is situated at the kind of the conjunction of, I believe, 3 different watersheds: Middle River, Bird River, and then a little bit in the Stemmers Run Back River watershed, all in Baltimore County there. But if you can think of spinning in then a drone flying over Middle River and focusing in on the next slide, this is the 101-acre townhome community of Middle River. And you can see a lot of impervious surface there, also some green areas to work with. And at this point, I will ask Purnell if he could tell the story of how he originally connected with GVC about the project.
Okay, good afternoon, everybody. My community is very involved in local activities that happen in our community. And one of the things we do is we actually are involved with our civic council for Essex Middle River area. And GVC always do presentations at the civic council. So we end up noticing that they were doing a presentation there, and we got in contact with GVC actually through our civic council to say that we're a brand new community. We have a lot of area that we will love to see if we could qualify or will qualify to take on a project like this. And that's when it all started. And we got in contact with them, and they came out and did a great assessment for us.
Great, thanks, Purnell. So getting a little more detail in the next slide there, thus the Baywise project at Miramar Landing was born there. We applied for a grant from the Chesapeake Bay Trust, primarily to fund this project in 2015, and the project actually performance period was 2016 and a little bit into 2017 there. So among the big accomplishments of the project, I think Purnell may have already mentioned or in his bio that the Miramar Landing community was the first community in Baltimore County to be certified as Baywise by the University of Maryland Extension Master Gardeners, Baltimore County there. So previously the program had just been for individual residences, but this was the first community to make the commitment to change its landscaping practices to be more water friendly, reduce pollution where they can, and that's a huge accomplishment for that. We also did some tree plantings in the community, 137 trees across about 1¼ acres. We installed bayscapes, which are native plant gardens, 10 of those in the community in various locations on the common property, as well as 4 residential mini bayscapes in individual yards in the community. 8 people installed rain barrels, and we installed 4 residential rain gardens there. And we did all this with the help of about 400 volunteers, both residents in the community and volunteers from other groups that I'll talk about later. Purnell, I wonder if you could say something about the Junior Green Thumbs Club.
Yeah, so one of the things that initiated this is that we have a Green Thumbs Club, because a lot of people, we are what we call a mixed housing community. We have single family homes and we have townhomes. And some of these townhomes are very large, almost 3,000 square foot in a townhome. And a lot of people who move here are first-time home buyers. So we started a committee called the Green Thumbs, and that was to teach people how to take care of their landscaping, things like that. A spin-off project from that came the Junior Green Thumbs, and that really came about once we got involved with GVC and Clear Creek's project. It was a way to bring, people can bring their kids out and learn about the environment.
Great, thanks for now. All right, so following on to that, community involvement in this project, you can imagine that nothing gets done without the community driving behind it. And this guy right here who's speaking to us today, the HOA president, Purnell, is a major project champion, has been all through from the beginning and still continues to be. He attended all the planning meetings and many of the free workshops that we offered in the community during the project period, and very significantly continually shook the bushes to get more residents involved with the projects that we were doing there and continuing to keep their involvement there. We also had a great steering committee for the project, and you can see some of them pictured here. They were key to planning, preparing for and executing our events, and really giving input into the structure of the project, which I'll get into in the next few slides. And they also helped neighbors install their gardens, so not only planning, but getting their feet wet and their hands dirty in the project. So take a step back now to talk about a theory and a practice that undergirds really everything that we do with the overall umbrella Clear Creeks project and the project at Miramar Landing, and that is community-based social marketing. Research has shown that just raising people's awareness of a problem or something that they want to change is often not enough to bring about that behavior change, even among people who are really on board and believing what you're saying. So that's where social marketing comes in. Social marketing uses, or its goal is to motivate individual behavior changes to benefit a public good. It's used a lot in public health behavior change or public health campaigns, as well as environmental campaigns like the one that we're doing here. And community-based social marketing takes great care to involve the specific audience who you're trying to motivate in every aspect of planning the project. Community-based social marketing uses traditional marketing strategies like what's known as the 4 Ps: product, placement, promotion, and price. Principles of social psychology. How do people form habits? How do people break habits? How does that influence their behavior? And then very importantly, developing specific messaging that addresses the benefits that people perceive about the actions that you're trying to bring about, and also the barriers to those actions. And these things, when done right together, can lead to sustainable behavior change. So we took some steps in our overall Clear Creeks project, community-based social marketing process, that also drilled down to Miramar Landing. But kind of in order of what we examined, we talked to people about what best management practices are most appealing to them. What sorts of things spark people's interest in managing their stormwater? And then who are the people who are most likely to adopt the best management practices? Those first adopters and different behaviors who can then become leaders for the rest of the community and guide them into also contributing to this. And very importantly, what do people identify as the barriers to implementing BMPs? So you want to talk to the people who not only are very enthusiastic about it, but the ones who say, I don't know, here's the issue that I have, and make sure that you pay attention to those messages. And then finally, taking all these things into consideration, how can we develop a specific campaign to best motivate these people to adopt the sorts of behaviors that we're advocating? So we took what we learned in the Clear Creeks project overall, and we focused in on Miramar Landing and the steering committee there. But before we did that, our assistant project manager at the time decided that she would dive into the social network next door and see what she could find out about what people are saying about their community. So among the things that she discovered was that the average age of a Miramar Landing resident was 43. The top 3 interests that people seem to have was family, music, and food, not surprisingly. And the things that they loved about Miramar Landing were its diversity, the sense of community, the peacefulness, and then its family friendliness. So you can already start to think about what sorts of activities, what sorts of messaging we might want to use knowing that. So taking that information, we presented it to the steering committee and listened to them and the challenges that they identified as residents in the community. And some of these that bubbled up to the top were people not really knowing their neighbors, despite living in a really dense community, like you can see, not really having many opportunities to get to know each other. They also definitely identified or noticed the improper street and sidewalk drainage from stormwater during storm events. So they were already aware of the problem that we were trying to combat, at least as it relates to flooding, if not the pollution aspect of it. And then finally, they cited low involvement in homeowners association activities, which is something that I think plagues and challenges homeowners associations all over the world. So knowing these things, we got a group together to choose a tagline that would become kind of the rallying point for the entire campaign. And looking at all these values that the community had, they chose the tagline, "Growing a Bay-Wise Community Together," because they felt that it reflected the multi-generational experience that they wanted to advocate. It was nature friendly and also promoted that social aspect that they were looking to develop. They also suggested some key strategies, which Pernell also touched on a little bit earlier. They said it was really important to involve children of all ages in the project. As young parents know, it's easier to get involved in things when your kids can come with you, and parents tend to get involved in things that their kids are excited about. So thus the Green Thumbs Club was born, or the Junior Green Thumbs Club. And they were also interested in activities for older kids too, where they could earn community service hours by helping to install gardens, for example. So as Pernell also mentioned, many of the residents were first-time home buyers, and they were interested in learning how to nurture the natural spaces, not only in their own yards, but in the community in general, and help bring about that peaceful, natural experience and enhancing these open areas. And then finally, they wanted us to provide fun and interactive social events and workshops where they would have opportunities to get them to know their neighbors better. So one example of that was after the gardens were installed and developed a little bit, we had a scavenger hunt for kids and or for families to come out and look for different critters, bugs, and leaves and flowers in the garden, and then draw those on a scavenger hunt sheet. So that's been an activity that we've used there. So here are some social marketing strategies that we overall have employed for our umbrella Clear Creeks project. So the key ones that I think were most effective in Miramar Landing was in the intrinsic rewards category, engendering that pride and community, helping people feel good about the time that they were investing in beautifying their neighborhoods, creating native habitat, and also controlling stormwater. How-to skills were really important. They're providing free educational workshops given by people who are very familiar with rain gardens and bayscapes and could answer questions, and installation assistance by a professional landscaping team and a landscape architect, which I'll talk about a little bit later. And then finally, social diffusion, having communities leaders set personal examples of behavior. Pernell is definitely the best example of that from this project. He really motivated a lot of people and brought them to the light. Yeah. So here's a picture of one of the children's bayscapes in the common area. You can see it situated in what was really just a big green space of lawn in one of the common areas there. We developed signage that would be appropriate for, that would attract kids or interest kids there. And we tried to plan a garden that was a sensory experience that would engage kids with different colors, textures, plants that had scents or fruits in them to intrigue not only the children, but also the adults too. So along with the common area BMPs that were installed, several people also had BMPs installed in their yards. And you can see this family had a yard that faced one of the common areas. So it was very visible to the community around it, and has been a great success there, a beautiful garden. And then here's Pernell leading the very difficult tree planting event that we had there. And you can see lots of volunteers of different ages, both residents from the community. We had a group of volunteers from the Target Middle River come out, I believe some Towson University students. So really an opportunity to bring a lot of people together to plant those trees. Pernell, anything else you want to say about these?
Yeah, or you mean the tree planting, or?
Yeah, or any of the gardens.
Yeah, so one of the biggest things was the well, actually it's a whole bunch of things, but one of the biggest things is the children's garden. It consists of 6 big gardens, as you've seen one of them in that presentation. That's there, 6 of them. It's been a staple of our community. We do a community cookout, and every year we do the scavenger hunt as part of our community cookout, where we have the kids go over there and pick out things and win a prize. And it's also been great to keep the little kids involved, because we make projects around those gardens. So to do replanting, so we can get the kids to plant a new plant every year. And it just keeps us involved in the community. And now, since I believe it's in its 7th year, these particular gardens, of course, they self-sufficient pretty much, but it's great because we can go back there and see exactly what started several years ago, how well it's going for the community there. The way we planted the trees at, I should have took a picture of that one. That's become really one of the staple points of the community, that people walk around, and we have a walk path around this whole garden. And I should have took a later picture and put it in the slide, but it's actually been really great for the community. And these projects has really made a lot of people who have moved here since, as people move out, and they say they really moved here because the community shows well.
Awesome. Thanks, Pernell. So we've seen the results of that. I'm going to shift gears a little bit and talk about what GVC feels are some good strategies to consider in crafting a successful behavior change and restoration project proposal. Things to think about before you embark on a project like this. So the first thing that we have found that is great is to choosing your project area strategically. So going back to that, this is a shot from the Middle River Tidal Gunpowder Swap Volume, and you can see the different colored areas there are ratings on a scale of pollution severity and restoration opportunity. If it's possible, it's really great to choose a project that not only has a great need or a high pollution severity, but also restoration opportunity. And what this means effectively, or what it meant for us, is you have green space to work with. There are a lot of areas with high pollution severity that are really effectively paved over. There's not a lot to work with. There are certainly BMPs that you can implement in areas like that, but they didn't fit the targets that we knew that we had funding for, the types of best management practices that we were prepared to implement. So Miramar Landing was a good fit for us in terms of offering us space to install the sorts of practices that we could promote there. Another thing, high treatment, high visibility, and high education potential. This shot here is not actually of Miramar Landing, but it's of another project similar to the one in Miramar Landing, also in Middle River, a project that we did at Our Lady of Mount Carmel Catholic School and Parish back in 2019 and 2020. When you have an area that is visible, and by visible, I mean mostly foot traffic, also driving traffic, but if you can put a practice in where people are strolling by and they see something and they have a minute and they read and wonder, what's that? And maybe encountering your signage there, that's really effective. And then the education potential. The potential for education at a church and parish kind of speaks for itself, but at Miramar Landing, having that Green Thumbs Club and the Junior Green Thumbs Club there, that was ready to go and wanting to learn about what we had to offer. So that was a great fit from that perspective. The saying, it takes a village, well, it takes a village to deliver a successful stormwater management behavior change project. We had many partners on this proposal that we identified before we even got to writing the proposal. The Baltimore County Department of Environmental Protection and Sustainability was a key partner and advocate for us. We had local colleges and universities, council people, I've talked about the Maryland, University of Maryland Master Gardeners, having specific commitments in writing from partner organizations as to how they're willing to contribute to the project, and being able to demonstrate this in a proposal is really powerful, and has been successful for us for several projects beyond Miramar Landing too. And then kind of self-evident, demonstrate an effort to reduce project costs in your proposal. Whoop, my computer's got a mind of its own. I want to focus on one innovative partnership that we have and have continued to have that really has reduced our project costs. Our landscape architect that we retained to help us with the overall Clear Creeks project is a professor at Morgan State University in the landscape architecture department. And he had the idea and was able to work through the university's red tape in order to initiate a partnership between GVC and the university to use landscape architecture graduate student labor in designing the garden practices and delivering the educational presentations and our free workshops to reduce cost and then benefit the students by providing professional experience for them through an internship, so that when they finish their master's and they're looking for a job, they can hit the ground running with this experience already. So that's been there have definitely been challenges with that, but that has been a great, great partnership for us. So now I'm going to turn it back over to Purnell. I've done a lot of talking here, and I want to hear from, I know you guys would like to hear from Purnell and his perspective more on how local governments and nonprofits can successfully approach HOAs like Miramar Landing about project ideas.
Okay. One of the things that really helped us out is to really, we looked at a couple things. It's like I said before, a lot of our members are involved in the local government, civic council, our police relation council. So we are getting a lot of information locally that impact our area. It gave us an advantage on finding out like what we wanted to do and didn't want to do. One of the things that happened is that really made this process easy for us was, does our HOA, did we have an environmental program? Lucky we had a lot of people through our Green Thumbs committee that were involved in the different environmental programs or did care about the environment in that state. Me, myself, I grew up using Middle River. My dad used to own a boat, and I grew up fishing. So I understand how the water runoff and different things were impacting the bay. So it became easy for me to understand that. Us as an HOA, what that made it easy is that this was a brand new development. We have a lot of open space. We have just as much open space as of all of our homeowners together own land around the house if you add it all together. So we wanted to make sure we made an impact. So that gave us a project that made it easy for our board members to buy into doing something or partner up with GVC and the Clear Creeks program. The different thing is we also as a community have existing landscape and ground maintenance projects that were already in the works. And we already pre-fund these things every year in our reserves. So we didn't have to go back and say to our members, we want to charge you more, we want to make this, we want to do this. it made it easy for us to look at a need, um, show the impact of the project it will do for us now and in the future. And that made it really easy because it didn't cost us or we had to save any money away to actually do the project. That was one of the biggest things that actually came about for this, that made it easy. And several of our board members were on board. Not only that, our community as an HOA, we have different committees. By us having the Green Thumbs Committee, by us having the Events Committee, it was easy for each one of those committees to understand the impact of getting our HOA members involved into a project like this. And the budget, budgeting, like I said, was easy for us if we can budget for that. One of the things that I always that I'm aware of is maintenance. How we're going to maintain these in the future. So that was one of the things that allowed us to actually budget for this, along with our volunteer labor that it came about for the impact. And overall, this project really impacted our community, because we probably would never have had these many gardens planted. And these are not small gardens, but we probably would have had trees and scrubs and things like that, which we have a lot of those, but we would never had these type of gardens. And it has been really eye-catching part of the community to see a very successful project that the HOA was behind. Darcy?
Great. All right, you feel like talking a little bit more for now?
Yes.
All right.
I probably went into some of this. Yes, the benefit of the project and projects for the community actually were to revitalize areas. If you can imagine having a brand new development, most of the landscaping and things was only pre-planned versus based on what the developer had put back on the county plans, and that's all they were going to do. So the benefit was to make these gardens really eye-catching, that people, when they walk around, will enjoy the outdoor as just as much as they enjoy being in their own homes. The cost of the proposed projects were very beneficial, because a lot of the costs were subsidized on granting, whether they were 20/80, 30/70, 60/40. They were put into where the community had what we call a win-win. I'm going to say it that way. Had a win-win opportunity to do something beneficial for the community, and at a cost sharing that was very beneficial for us also. And the community involvement that we needed, because we had a Green Thumbs Committee already, it allowed the Green Thumbs Committee to expand when we developed the Junior Green Thumbs Committee. That came out of it, and we even partnered up with our local school. We have an elementary school that's in our community. So it allowed us to actually get the youth involved at a young age, to probably something that maybe they just run outside, but to get involved on why we plant, why these plants are beneficial, why some things that I learned, why use native plants, things like that. So the community involvement really was beneficial. And because we have many different committees, it helped us sponsor kids that they would need to come out and get their school credits. So very beneficial for the community to know that they can volunteer inside the community and actually get the school credits for Baltimore County. And detailed maintenance was key. A lot of projects, we can plan them, but if no one is there to help maintenance these things, especially until they get self-sufficient, as I like to say, a lot of the projects might go by the wayside, and yeah, we did this, but they plants died or did not survive. We have a maintenance plan, not only through our property so big, we do have landscapers that cut out grass, but we have a maintenance plan that we partner up with our landscapers, adjust the budget in there, along with our committees that we have to make sure that these gardens survive and had time to grow in to make sure they self-sufficient. So and we budget for signage and things like that. So we took this project, pretty much used every inch of probably what GVC wanted these projects to be in the Clear Creeks program. We really embodied the goal and ran with it.
All right, indeed. Thanks, Pernell. All
Thank
right,
you.
so that's a great segue into the eternal question. How do you keep the momentum going after the end of the project period? And another holy grail for many organizations like GVC with that. Well, I don't think we've solved the whole problem, but we do have a few suggestions that I think have been successful, not only in Miramar Landing, but other 1-year-long projects that we've worked on. Pernell has been great about remaining on the steering committee for the overall Clear Creeks project. So there is a sharing back and forth of what's going on, what we can offer to Miramar Landing in terms of additional gardens, opportunities for rain barrels as more people move into the community. So he's aware of what's going on and he can bring that back to the community. And we definitely benefit from his participation, not only on the steering committee, but also on our GVC's advisory board. So following on to that, whenever there are opportunities for community leaders from Miramar Landing or one of our other projects to talk to other community leaders, to engage with them, answer questions in forums like the one we're in right now, or other types of outreach events, that's another great way to keep the momentum going, keep the interest going in Miramar Landing and the existing project communities. And then something very more on the practical side, I think, one of the types of workshops that we offer for free through our Clear Creeks project are garden maintenance workshops. Past project sites, after a year, after 2 years, are great host sites for a maintenance workshop. And generally this is something that one of our landscape architecture students or myself would come in, and people from the Miramar Landing community or from outside, another resident maybe from outside the community who had received one of our gardens, or people who are interested in just learning about how hard it is to maintain a rain garden, learning more, being able to show people on site what a garden looks like after a year in the spring and the fall. What do you need to do? What are the best practices for taking care of it? It has been really successful for us. Anything else, Pernell, that you want to add?
I just tell people that you need someone has to spearhead the project, whether it's one or multi people that are really interested to keep your community going, to understand. But that's probably the key to this, to have people keep passing that vision on, and just stay with timelines, and start small. If you have to, start big. I just know that one of the things that kept us going is we came up with also a tagline. We said, what we do today, someone will thank us tomorrow. So we use that at all of our meetings, that when people say, hey, can we do this? How does this work? You might not get thanked today, but tomorrow, and somebody will thank you, like, wow, good thing that they had to envision to do this. So lately we are now seeing that all these gardens that we put in, we're just seeing the fruits of volunteering and good organizations like the GVC and the Clear Creeks program, how well it worked for us.
Great, thanks, Pernell. Well, that's about all I have. So I will stop sharing my screen now and turn it over to David.
Great. Thanks so much, Darcy and Purnell, for the really great presentation, and really for the great work that you're doing, in the watershed and in the community. We do have a couple of questions that came in, and maybe the first one I'll start with. This question is for Purnell. You alluded to it a little bit through the existing Green Thumbs program, but just wondered if you could talk a little bit about sort of your community's kind of interest off the bat in engaging with stormwater issues. One of the challenges I think with stormwater in particular when it comes to these stewardship and outreach campaigns is it's a little bit of a tricky subject to kind of, get your foot in the door and kind of start engaging people with. So could you just talk a little bit about sort of how your community kind of started their interest in, engaging in stormwater management and things like that? Was it, mostly through the Green Thumbs? Anyways, talk a little bit about that.
Yes. I guess at the time, because this was a brand new development and a lot of the landscaping was not done or completed. So when people were looking outside, they kept wondering why this field's not done? What's going to go here? It's nothing growing in this place. It allowed us to engage in a community need, which made it a little bit more open to our HOA members. And doing that, it also helped that not only myself, but probably at the time, we had at least maybe 10 families that were very conscious of environmental issues going on. And we can see the runoff, or if it wasn't something planted there, we can see the runoff, how it was affecting certain areas in our community. So it was a need. It was great that as a HOA, it was identified early on, which made it easy for us to understand, like, this will be a good project to do this. Then it was up to GVC to sell a lot of people, and working as a team, it made it very easy to try to understand, because there were things that I definitely learned about that I probably would not have took a different approach. Like we talk about native plants, those seminars, those things were very helpful. The HOA letting people know that they can get gardens at their house, and using ring barrels to be the supply of water source was one of those. So the education, having people that work there, that live in that community involved. And I don't know how other HOAs work. This is my first HOA I've ever lived in, but having a defined HOA that had maintenance budgets for landscaping and ground maintenance was also a plus.
Great. The next question that I had was for Darcy. From one of our participants, said in their research, having a community leader is essential to making sure that these projects can really penetrate the community. She's just wondering if you could talk a little bit about your experience finding, leaders and drivers like Purnell in other communities that you work with through the Clear Creeks program. So obviously Purnell is a great example here, but I know Clear Creek spans a few other neighborhoods. So could you just sort of talk a little bit about the process for you guys kind of identifying those champions that can kind of help grow the stewardship programs?
Yeah, sure. And that is the key. If I had to name one key to a successful project, is finding those champions and engaging them. I would say two things. One, general advice, having a steering committee and keeping that going. The Clear Creeks Project Steering Committee meets 4 times a year, and we ask the members of the committee who represent not only HOAs like Purnell, but also other types of organizations like Baltimore County Game and Fish, or protective associations, things like that. They are a pipeline of leader. They themselves are engaged as leaders in their communities, but they also connect us with other potential community champions. And we found several projects that way. So definitely maintaining a steering committee that maybe you can somehow keep going even as funding fluctuates, keep those meetings going is really key. And then the second thing, this happened before I joined GVC, but I know that they had what they called a leadership conference where people like Purnell, like other community champions that we had already identified, we had a one-day sort of a seminar where people could come, these community leaders could come and speak, and we invited communities that we didn't know as well yet to send people to come to that. And it was very successful with connecting us to the next community that we approached after Miramar Landing, which was the Maryland State Game and Fish Protective Association. We did a project there. So providing those networking opportunities, whether they are big ones like that one-day conference or smaller ones like our project steering committee meetings, those have been really effective for us.
Great, and I had another question for you. It's actually sort of related. It's kind of the flip side of having the community champion, and it's about the benefits of having sort of dedicated paid staff through Gunpowder Valley Conservancy to help manage and conduct projects like these. The participant was sort of asking, there's a lot of watershed groups that rely on volunteer-led programs, and it can make it more difficult to sustain success, for these types of projects. I know you talked a little bit about the staffing partnership that you had with Morgan State. So maybe if you could just talk a little bit about, sort of the funding needed and kind of the benefits of having sort of dedicated, paid staff to help shepherd these projects through.
Yeah, thanks. It's definitely a balance that we have to achieve. So I can give you an overview of kind of the roles that different people play in a typical project like this. We would have our paid staff at GVC, and we are a very small staff of only 2 full-time and I believe 3 part-time people. We're even smaller at the time of the Miramar Landing project. They spearheaded the community-based social marketing part of that. As far as volunteers, volunteer labor provided a lot of, volunteers provided a lot of the labor of the tree planting, and GVC has a program, a crew chiefs program, where we train volunteer leaders to be able to teach other volunteers on site, or it might be one-time tree planting volunteers at Miramar Landing to kind of magnify or follow on to what we can do as limited paid staff. We also, grant funds provided money for hiring our landscape architect, and I believe we had 2 on this project. And of course, the labor, we were able to save some costs by using the graduate student labor there too, but always volunteers. A key part of this was both the education and cost savings was having volunteers do the actual planting of the plants. We had contractors that would were paid for by our grants who would prepare, for example, the rain garden bed, but volunteers would do all the planting on the day of the workshop. So it would engage them, give them a stake in the garden, and also relieve us of a little bit of having to pay for labor there. So that's what we did. This project was supported by not only by the Chesapeake Bay Trust, but National Fish and Wildlife Foundation Small Watershed Grant. We had some money from Department of Natural Resources, I believe, BGE, and also the Baltimore County. So many types of match funding to make something like this happen.
Great. Well, we're at 1 o'clock. So why don't we close with just, I had one more question that I kind of wanted to pose to both of you to kind of put a bow on today's conversation. And it's sort of about, how you evaluate success in a program like this. So, maybe from Darcy, from your perspective, kind of, if you could talk a little bit about maybe the metrics and the evaluation that you guys were doing from sort of a project manager's perspective, and in terms of how this type of stewardship program goes, what your goals are, and sort of how you evaluate it. And then, maybe Pernell, if you can close us out by maybe talking from a community member's perspective on sort of what your goals were and sort of how you saw success playing out through this project.
Yeah, great way to end. So as many of you who are engaged in this kind of work know, it's very hard to measure success in this type of project, especially in 1 year's time, because things don't usually come to fruition until much later. But as a part of our social marketing program, we developed a survey that we gave people at the workshop participants and asked them some basic questions about what their stormwater knowledge was at the beginning of the workshop. Then after seeing our educational presentation, whether their attitudes changed or if they were already aware of the stormwater program or their stormwater problem, whether what we offered them reinforced that knowledge. And then we also asked them if there were best management practices that they would be interested in installing, and if not, why. And we started as an open-ended question, but got really hairy to try to evaluate. So we used some of our most popular barriers and just ask people to check one or more of those. And we were able to demonstrate then to our grantors in our final reports the kind of effect that we had and whether we had motivated people at least to think about taking these actions.
All right. For me, I don't know if we have any participants or belong to an HOA, but as a HOA board member, I know I'm the president. Most of the time we evaluate things on how many non-complaints we get. But overall, what was put down to the community was successful pretty much to the T. What the proposed plans were on each garden, what they supposed to achieve, what they supposed to do, all the workshop things that happened. It allowed now members that are in our community to now look at this and say, yes, that was successful. We now could go outside and have a nice park that we can walk around. I can take my kids to the children's garden. So right now, the success of this project in our community, we are still benefiting from it. Meaning, if we can come up with any other project, we have HOA members like, can we get a garden here? Can we get one there? So they are now in tuned on what we can do when we partnership with good organizations, but they also now understand the benefit, the time it takes after, because a lot of people thinks instant success, plant the garden, and next year they're like, well, this doesn't come back. We now have at least educated HOA members that now understand it takes once you plant it, it takes a little while for it to grow in, and you reap the rewards, whether it's visual or whether it's a fruit garden or fruit tree, to pluck the fruit from it. So I think that our community has benefited from it, and they let us know every time they see something. It's been a great project.
Well, that's outstanding. I think that is a great way to close it out today. I'll just remind folks, if you're still on, we do have the evaluation link in the chat. If you could stop over there before you head out today and let us know how we're doing, I would really appreciate it. But otherwise, I'll just thank Darcy and Pernell especially for taking some time out today, since you have another day job as well. So I really appreciate you taking the time to join and share your experiences with this project. I loved it personally, as someone that runs the BUBBAs contest. I was just really excited to see the success of this work, and I love to hear that it is continuing to be something that the community can, really rally behind, and continue to have those touch points around something like stormwater that is, obviously important to a stormwater coordinator for a stormwater organization. So thank you again, both of you, for joining and talking about this project and for your work. And thanks to everybody else for joining us today. We'll have the recording posted by tomorrow. And this is the last of our webcasts for this fall period. We'll hopefully have a few more that we'll be announcing in the next month or two, but we'll keep you posted.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks.